Hello, today's topic is CDP eSign full version. Full version means that it's actually integrated with CDP Manage. We also have another version called CDP eSign Standalone. Standalone is just as it says, it's standalone, but it will be actually a different video that you will be encouraged to watch. So what are some of the topics we want to cover today? Why do some people call it WebSign, others say eSign? The integration with Manage, user settings, signer setup, some advanced features that you can do inside of eSign. Sending the document, we'll actually walk through what it looks like from the signer's aspect of being able to sign, going in and approving the document once it's done, looking back at it and seeing what you see in CDP Manage, and finally from there we'll talk about pricing and next steps. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to start in CDP Manage. If you're not familiar with CDP Manage, I do encourage you to watch the CDP Manage video. So we're not going to go through any of that stuff in here. But what you see is a representation of a signature that's already been captured with the signature pad in CDP Manage, and then another one that we need to go ahead and capture outside of CDP Manage inside of CDP eSign. All right, so let's go ahead and keep on with the what needs to happen. So let's first of all, you'll notice the web sign button is active up here. When we first started rolling out the ability to be able to sign from your phone, from a tablet, from your PC, we called it CDP WebSign. That many of the customers bought it under CDP WebSign, and many people refer to it as CDP WebSign. Over the years, for different reasons, the name has been changed to CDP eSign. But I would plan on receiving calls where people referred to it as WebSign, others referred to it as eSign. When we integrated it with CDP Manage, we obviously used WebSign as the button. So as you are set up and you're ready to go ahead and you have signatures to capture, the user will select WebSign. What that actually does is works the same as it would be as if you hit the pending button. When you hit the pending button in CDP Manage, as those who watch the video have known, it minimizes it, puts it back in the database to be worked on later. In this case, what it does is it pens it, and then it also calls the URL that you see up here, which is configured inside of the CDP Manage config information. It calls that and opens it up. Now each user has to have their own login for CDP eSign. This way you can identify and control who has access to it. You can know who actually sent the document for signing, and then they're also able to be notified when a document is completely signed, so they don't have to sit there and wait for it, and they can go back and they can access CDP WebSign or eSign and go ahead and look at it. So let me start by logging in. As I look along this, consider this the dashboard or the main home screen. Anytime you're in CDP eSign here and you select on the home button, it actually, what it does is does a refresh. So we've integrated with a company called Alpha Trust, and that's who the does a lot of the engine for processing. By hitting the home, it's like hitting the refresh button, and what it does is it goes out and determines the status of a document, and you'll start to see that status change. So along the top here, we have 3 buttons. All related to the signer. So setting up a new signer, editing a signer, removing a signer. Pretty self-explanatory. We'll take a look at a typical signer setup. And what you see here is its first name, last name, email address, PIN. Now, the first time you set up the signer, this PIN will be randomly generated. As a user, you can go ahead and you can change that PIN to whatever you might want it to be. So if they are tied already to an existing document, let's say there's one they're currently signing, that will be inactive because we don't want to be able to change the PIN of a signer that's already working on a document that's been signing. Typically, the PIN is used for authentication. There may be examples or maybe situations where you don't really want to have to really worry about the PIN, and you can check no PIN required. That way, and you'll see later that if you select on the link to access the document, it will simply give them access to that document without having to authenticate. So as a typical workflow, that PIN needs to be communicated to the signer. How does that typically happen? One would be to be able to enter in their cell phone number here, select send PIN to phone, and it will actually text them that PIN. The other way would be able to call them. You could also email it to them, but what we don't recommend is emailing it using this same email address where the document's going to go to. Helps prevent any type of fraud. We've got a member number, and this can actually be changed to account number or anything else depending on the customer that's using CDP eSign. And lastly, the bottom part about knowledge base authentication. We do have some integration with Experian. They're a credit-based agency, and we can level that second level of authentication. So first is the PIN, and then by entering the knowledge-based authentication, the signer will then enter in some information related to them, demographic information, and then they'll be presented with a series of out-of-wallet questions they call knowledge-based authentication. So it's really questions that someone who stole someone's wallet wouldn't be able to answer. So it's not your address, it's not your anything related to that. It's stuff like what type of car did you drive, what towns did you live in, things that are related to your credit report that they can go ahead and pull off. It does require an integration with, it does require that the customer create an account with Experian, and we can follow through that. Not many do use that, but I want to make you aware that it is an option. So let me go ahead and get out of here. Next is the user setting. So typically this is where me as the user is logged in and I enter in my email address. So this says who gets notified when a document is signed or something else goes along with this document to go ahead and get notified. So now that we've got that, we've got a few things along the top. So we've got new document. That gives the ability to be able to load a document into CDP website or eSign. Right now we're in full mode. We typically do a lot of the integration with Manage, but it does give the ability to be able to open up and bring a document in outside of CDP Manage, but still be able to get it back into CDP Manage. We've got templates where I'll go in more detail in a different video, but really what it is think of it as signature templates. So many times customers are using documents where they place signature boxes in the same spot each time. This gives them the ability to bring in a document, click on a template. It will go and actually place those signature boxes everywhere pre-configured and actually give you the ability to be able to pick that signer one time and it'll populate those signature boxes. It makes it nice and easy and fairly efficient. Show saved documents, show documents without signature boxes. When CDP eSign was first designed, it was set up only to show documents that were in CDP Manage, appended, and that had signature boxes that were unsigned. Well, over the years, for different requirements and different feedback, we've had to add these different buttons. I encourage you to kind of go ahead and play around with them, but they do as what they say. You know, you've got a filtered list here. If I select it on show save documents, it's going to show me everything in the database that's been saved. If I click on show document without signature boxes, it's going to go out there and it's going to pretty much show every document that may not have a signature box at all, and part of that is because we've added the ability to be able to add signature boxes right inside of CDP website. So again, this is kind of the general dashboard, and you typically see a lock over here when a document's been sent, so you hover over it and it'll tell you who sent it out. Description, this is kind of the group types that were set up in Manage. We have a member number that was set up as part of what's in CDP Manage, a CDP website ID. So when this document is sent to someone to sign, we actually get as part of the confirmation that it's been sent, we get a website ID back. That's something that we can go ahead and we have some interfaces that we can go ahead and look into and go ahead and find that ID. But that gives you a little bit of a sense that that document was successfully passed and now it's into the signing process. There's the number of signature boxes that are kind of related to CDP eSign. So in this case, if I look at the one I've been working on, there's one signature box that's available and it hasn't been set up to sign. When a documents get pushed, you'll notice that all these have been set by admin, so you can kind of tell who's been sending those documents and what they're being worked on. And there's some other stuff here. So this is to be able to see the document. This I can go and you can notice it's indexing field, so I can actually change the group types and I can delete the document if I want. So let's go ahead and get into this document and get kind of the meat and potatoes of what we're doing here. So again, with the complete integration, this is going to show the exact document that I was working on inside of CDP Manage. A couple of things along the top here. Obviously, this takes me back to the list. If I need to add a signature box, I can. This allows me to jump from page to page, so I can jump down to page 2. I can go back to page 1. And then you'll notice when I go back to page 2, this gives me the ability to basically rearrange pages inside of CDP eSign. So I can make this page and move it to the top. I can move it down and go ahead and rearrange one page at a time. Another nice feature is down here in the lower left, it will allow me to jump to any place that I have a signature box and move me around. So a couple of different ways they can quickly get to the signature box. So as I mentioned, add signature. Let's say, for example, I forgot to add a signature box. I can go ahead and put that here, move it around just like I could. One of the things we do allow inside of the tools to be able to actually sign with the mouse. So I can select on this. You'll notice I have the ability to be able to select my signer. I can select if they want to do the initials, or I can do sign with the mouse. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just go ahead and do a quick signature. You'll notice that's captured. This one, I'm going to go through and I'm going to actually want my full signature. And actually, you know what? I'm going to change this one because I'm going to say that I have to initial here. So now that I've had all my signature boxers captured, if you didn't notice before, you will now. There's advance and send. So send, now that everything is set up in this document, I can go ahead and send. But the advanced features, it lets me do a few things. One, I can control the order of signing. Top here you have signing order, sequential or non-sequential. So sequential means the order that I put it in, that's it's going to go to. So if I have 2 people to sign, I set it to sequential. I can change the order over here on the left. I can pick it to go to signer A first, then signer B. So signer B doesn't even get notified until signer A has completely signed the document. If I do non-sequential, signer A, signer B, they both receive it at the exact same time. Another cool feature is to be able to ask the signer to provide information during the signing process. Doesn't make a lot of sense to be able to have them sign electronically, and then from there they have to somehow, fax in or copy and email back in their driver's license. Why not do it as part of the signing process? So here I've set it up to say I want them to upload one document. I'm not going to make it required because I don't want to stop that process, and give them a little of instruction. So please upload a copy of your driver's license. All right, I've got all this stuff saved, ready to go. I can go ahead and click the save or the send button, and this is going to go off. So what is it doing now? It's actually locking this document inside the database. You'll be able to see it now over here that says, hey, this has been sent out, locked for signing by Ken. Also, it's locked in CDP Manage. Anyone can go there and maybe see that document. They would not be able to select on the edit button. They would be notified that it's been set out for signing, and they can't do that. Okay, so now we've gone through the signing process, or the setup process, and we've gone ahead and sent this up. So what does this look like now from a signer standpoint? I'm going to hop over. Here's what they receive. Let me go ahead and do a refresh. So here's a digital signature that was sent. So the signer gets a request initially, right when you press the send button. It kind of goes through the process. If they don't sign it within 24 hours, they will receive a second notice. So this, you'll notice at the top here, it says first notice. They'll receive a second notice, and then 48 hours after, they'll receive a third notice. So typically they have 30 days to go ahead and sign this document before it expires, but most of the time they'll sign it during the first case. So the other thing to point out is you'll notice the Complete Data Products logo here. It's because I'm using our environment. When customers purchase this, we brand this to them. So anything that's going out to their customers for them to sign will have their logo, will have their verbiage. So let's go ahead and start the process. It's simply, I can copy and paste this into the browser, or it's simple just to go ahead and select here. So the first thing is to go ahead and enter in my PIN. That's what I would have texted to them or contacted them with. All right, so let's enter in the correct PIN. Had you been using the knowledge-based authentication, this would have been the next step I would have done, but I'm not using that. So first step is to go through the eSign Act. Again, I'm going to point out up here that it shows the Complete Data Products logo, but really it would be branded towards the individual customer that had purchased CDP eSign. This is really letting them acknowledge that, yes, I agree to sign this document electronically. I've asked them to upload a copy of their driver's license. Typically, if they have it on their workstation, they go ahead and grab that, like I'm going to do. But they can also place their driver's license on a table and go ahead and snap it with their camera if they need, if they're using a phone. So I've got my driver's license. Now I'm going to be taken to the document to be able to go ahead and sign. So the nice part, once I get into the document here, is the fact that it will take me to every place that I am set up to sign. It eliminates them having to try to figure out and find these documents or find these signature boxes and any of that stuff. You'll also see any of the documents that have been previously captured. Now, they can go ahead and print, they can download this document, they can scroll up and down. they can use this yellow button to take it back down. But the idea is that I don't want them to miss a spot where they have to go ahead and sign. So when they are signing, this point, it's simply a click of the mouse, or they can be using a stylus or their finger if they're using some type of touchpad and stuff like that. So I've captured that. Here's where now I need to do my initial. Now that I'm done, it's a success. As the signer, I now can download or print this for my own records. I don't have to worry about the customer contacting me. And as a credit union, as the customer, they don't have to provide their signers with the final copy. This is technically the final copy that they would go ahead and receive. Now, as a let's turn back to now the company themselves, or let's say the credit union in this case. Because I sent this out, now I'm getting notified that I've signed this document. It's been, that the document has been completely signed. I go back into, so I'm going to close this out. I head back, I hit the home button. Again, that does a refresh. You'll notice now that this document that I sent out has a couple of different options for it. So the first one is I can go ahead and view this document. It allows me to, and it'll say copy on here. It says copy on here simply because I don't want someone to be able to save this down and be able to use this as the final copy. It hasn't technically been approved. But you'll notice the signature boxes and the signatures and initials that have been captured here. I can look at any attachments. So here's a copy of the driver's license that I uploaded. And then when I'm good, I can click approve. Approve really now is the same as hitting save in CDP Manage. It will disappear from the list, and we can also set up an approve password. So depending on the workflow, if there are certain people that everyone has the ability to send the document out, but only certain people can actually finalize it or approve it, we would typically set up an approve password, and then that way only certain people have access to that because they're the only ones who know the approved password. So, all right, so this has all been sent out. Let's go back into CDP Manage now. Take a look at that document now that I've saved it. I'm going to do an inquiry. I'm going to go into my loans. I'm going to look at this one I just looked at. So again, when I hit approve in CDP eSign, it's the same as clicking on save inside of CDP Manage here. So you'll notice now that there's 3 different pages down here. Page 1 is the actual signed document. And during each of these, you'll also notice a couple of audits that we have. One is this green annotation. You hover over it, you'll notice it'll show you who signed that, the email address, the date, time stamp, how they were authenticated, and the IP address. So it's consistent with both, and any signature that's captured or initial that's captured within CDP eSign will have that next to it. Page 2 in this case, because I did upload a driver's license, it shows me any attachments that may be along for the ride. If there was no attachments, obviously that page wouldn't be there. And page 3 now is the actual audit. So as you scroll through there, I can see who the participant is. I see a little bit of some hashing that we have going on there. I can see the location of signature boxes. I can say, hey, in this case, this is when I started and said I agree to sign electronically. This is when I completed the agree to sign electronically. All the way down, information. If I had 5 signers, if I had 10 signers, they'd all that information would be logged in here, and it's something that comes along for the ride. So, which is good and gives a little bit of a comfort for anyone using CDP eSign. So, let me call up. So I believe we've talked about most of this stuff. We've added signature boxes. We've talked about signing with the mouse, the advanced features, sending the document, signing the document, approving it. We've gone and looked at inside of CDP Manage. So how do we do pricing? Typically, pricing is done by a one-time license fee. I believe it's around $945 as we currently make in this video, with monthly maintenance and support. Maintenance support is typically $25 per user per month, and what it does is it gives that user the ability to contact our 800 number when they have issues, and we work through and help resolve those. It also gives them free upgrades anytime we roll out enhancements or new features. So next steps, what do I say? If you're not familiar with CDP Manage, you should go and watch the CDP Manage video and begin getting familiar with that. I would begin taking documents. I would send it to yourself. I would also send it to your work account and a personal account and kind of play around a little bit with the sequential and the non-sequential to get familiar with that and see how that works. Get in there, approve the documents, upload additional documents, maybe even work with a fellow coworker to be able to send documents back and forth and kind of get familiar with what it looks like coming from the company side, what it gets from the signer side, and kind of get familiar with all that. So hopefully you learned some stuff with this video. It's A little bit of time consuming, but it kind of shows you the integration between CDP eSign and CDP Manage. Thank you.